It's Wednesday, week 10, NFL. Ron and I are here. I do not immediately see any problems to start the show this week, so that's kind of nice. 2 weeks ago, I was booted from Twitter, and then last week, things had not recovered from that, and things were still in upheaval, so feeling a little bit better. It's a busy week. Trades. I think we should lead off with that because that's your passion, Ron, and we should try to make some sense out of that. I made some notes. First of all, how you doing this week?
Pretty good. They abused me in physical therapy yesterday, so I'm walking a little slower and all the arms are moving a little slower, but I'm happy to get the therapy going to try to get back out on the tennis courts one of these years. Otherwise, wow, good week last week. I know we'll talk about it, but sometimes it just crystallizes, and I enjoyed last week.
I see a notation that somebody's blocked on Twitter. That was one of the problems I had that developed is my Twitter account was hacked, and even Ron was blocked from Twitter. So
you have to refriend Cris and ask him to refriend you.
Is that how it works?
Yeah. You have to follow. You have to follow again.
Because I don't have anybody listed in my blocked list. So that's the problem. I can't just simply unblock people. So it's a very strange problem. Mm-hmm. I would have thought that I could go into the section where there's a list of people that were blocked. There's nobody in there. So I'm powerless unless you kind of try to message me, I guess.
Yeah.
Try to DM
me. That's what you have to do. I see on the screen that there's a lot of scrolling comments next to my picture there. So I think that's probably from your end.
Yeah, that's a new option. I figured rather than me posting, as long as we don't see, vulgarities and birdies in line, we can let these things scroll. That's easier than me trying to find them. It allows me to focus a little bit better than.
All right. Well, I didn't know whether that was true or not. And we could put birdie on 3-second delay if there's a problem.
Yes. So what I noticed with the trade, just my layman opinion, is the Jets were very interesting. Lots of first-round picks coming up in the next 2 years. Aaron Glenn probably getting a free ride here because they aren't going to – he wasn't doing very well, I don't think, and they can't get rid of him now with all these picks coming up. So I thought that's kind of interesting because they – interesting situation. I thought Dallas got the best of the Green Bay, but I'm not sure that Dallas got the best in what they did yesterday. The Jags helped themselves. Lawrence has been going down the drain. He's rating down in the bottom, categories in so many different areas. Any help for him is probably much welcome. So that's pretty good. The Eagles got stronger again. I was surprised the Rams did so little. The Lions did nada. I don't think Green Bay did anything. I don't think the Bills did anything. And as you mentioned, Ron, running back staying put was kind of a surprise that nobody wanted Breece Hall or Alvin Kamara because it seems like there's a handful of teams every week that are on their third string running back. So that's what I have to observe. Oh, the Seahawks got a little bit stronger. They're looking pretty darn good there.
Yeah, I thought some of the races kind of started to take shape after the trade deadline based on what teams did and didn't do. Jacksonville got serious. It was one of the first times they had a chance to get serious. Indianapolis got serious. It was definitely one of the first times that they had been buyers at this point in the season because they'd been so mediocre the last few years. And now they have a chance to really make some noise, especially in a division where they string an extra win or two and then they're the number 1 or the number 2 seed based on where Kansas City is right now and based on where Buffalo is right now. I thought Dallas has no direction whatsoever. I said this with Jared Smith this morning. We did a special 30 minutes on the trades. You could check that out. But basically, Dallas has no clue. They got better this year, but not better enough to make the playoffs. So instead of a draft pick that might have been in the top 10, maybe they'll have the 15th or 16th or 17th best draft pick. So they're spinning their wheels. They got a good player in Quinnen Williams. That's fine, but he's not Micah Parsons. Jerry Jones continues to be slow on the uptick when he wants to make certain moves. He even announces that he has a move in place 24 hours before he actually makes the move instead of just making the move. I feel like we're in a sitcom, Chris, that we keep having to watch him, and I want to delete the show and watch something else.
Yeah, well, when you're in your mid 80s and the end is near, I think you're going to get a little bit antsy to try to move things along that you'd like to see moved along, and that probably works against logic at times.
Yeah.
It's kind of a shame. I think a little bit of air has been let out of the Lions as far as I'm concerned. We expected them to do something. They're an offensive line purgatory here. They've got two people that might start this week that I've never heard of. So that's not a good sign. And Campbell is known to be an X's and O's guy. And it's clear that these breaks necessarily aren't benefiting the Lions. They lost after their break and their bye in the playoffs to Washington. They weren't prepared. They come back from this break completely unprepared. That's cause for concern looking forward that they're not coming in. But we also know that the Lions are 12-0 after losses, so they do rebound well. I'd hate to be the Washington team this week.
As you know, I write every week to help prepare myself with the matchup analysis, with the situational analysis and whatever. So you have no clue what I wrote, but you might as well have read Detroit's opening sentence based on what you said. Basically, I said, I'm going to read it. People often assume that teams perform better off bye weeks, but historically, most teams are flat in this regard. I like new coach early bye weeks, buys off tough divisional games, buys off road Monday night games, and buys off international games. The Lions had one of the neutral bye weeks, and they lost outright. And to be honest, even though I didn't have the game, I did not see them losing outright as an option. I did not think, based on the fact that they play Minnesota twice each year, that they would be unprepared for the blitzing that Flores would do.
Yeah, let's segue into reviewing last week then. Unless do you have any other trade? Actually, you're probably not done with the trade notes, are you?
No, we're good. I mean, we can incorporate a little bit of that when we talk about week 10, because I may even talk about a little bit of the power rating adjustments I made based on some of the trades. They're minimal. They may be a half a point in most cases, but we can incorporate that when we talk week 10.
Well, let's just segue into that Minnesota. We'll go out of order.
Okay.
That Detroit game last week was frustrating because we saw Minnesota with no defense versus other teams in the previous weeks, and somehow, as you mentioned, they came in with the heavy blitz. It caused Gibbs to basically be out of the game and be a blocker. And he failed miserably. 50% of the people he was supposed to be blocking blew right by him. So that was a problem. And they just never were able to, get any sort of momentum going. And Flores had a perfect game plan. I don't understand how week to week Minnesota can look so bad defensively and then look so good. It's just dumbfounding. And as a Lions fan, it's a concern to see them show up so poorly, and we can chalk it up as a motivational issue off the bye. But it really was an inexcusable loss under the circumstances, and the fact that they picked up nobody in the draft is another concern, or in the trade deadline is another concern.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting Detroit to be active in the trade in the right before the trade deadline. I don't think they've always been active there, but I don't know. I think we talk about whether a buy is beneficial, and often we say, yeah, that team needed rest, so on and so forth. But Detroit, as it turns out, would have been better just playing and being in the rhythm. They just it was an unforeseen performance from me. Not that it wasn't competitive, but I just didn't think they would lose outright.
Well, and then also credit has to be given that they weren't panicking and they didn't do something stupid. Um, they don't
Yes,
have a lot of draft capital to give up. That's one of their problems. But
by design because they overpay for trades on draft day.
yeah, so in that respect, I saw what some of these players went for, and I wouldn't, I don't want the Lions giving up that kind of stuff for what
Right.
was out there. So they were more between a rock and a hard place, and we're barking, or as Lion fans are just barking at the moon. There really wasn't much to be done.
Yeah, I mean, that division generally stayed flat, and Detroit caught a colossal break because of Green Bay's performance last week. We could segue to Green Bay, Carolina to continue to go out of order.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe when you put on those ugly uniforms, you don't feel like an athlete anymore because, they look like they should be in some sort of food commercial with that stuff. I mean, it was why do you feel like you're limber and ready to go or whatever? But they had I read, at least I didn't see the game, that Green Bay had 7 drives where they got to at least the 25-yard line of Carolina. And so to put up just 13 points means they weren't finishing. This is the second or third lower level opponent that they faced that they either took for granted or they played, based on what I heard on a radio segment, they played too conservative when they faced these lower level teams.
Yeah, they were 1 for 5 in the red zone, and they just were not themselves. They lost Kraft, which is that guy was just coming out and blossoming, and
Yeah,
it's
that's
a
a big
shame that
loss.
it's a shame. Do they have somebody that they can plug in?
Oh yeah, they in that Super 7 tight end draft, Bill Musgrave is a Bill. I can't even remember which is really on me considering what university he went to. Musgrave was rated higher and drafted higher than Tucker Kraft. Kraft and Musgrave were 2 of my Super 7 players from that tight end class. So Musgrave's a different kind of player. Kraft had a higher ceiling, but Musgrave, if he could get off of his injuries, I mean, he's injured every year, he's there. I mean, he's the guy they expected to start right out of the bat.
So
Luke, thank you. I was really I don't know why I was blanking out on a Corvallis guy.
It just seems odd because it just doesn't seem. It seems like Green Bay is kind of going through the motions this year. There's something off about them so far, and I think we'll find out a lot this week when they have to play Philadelphia.
Yeah, we certainly will. I think Green Bay's been underachieving a little. Their power rating's high enough to be a contender, but man, the erratic performances, they've literally given up 2.5 games where they should have won a 40-40 tie and so on and so forth. They've actually let everybody back in the playoff race.
In Carolina, you had a question on Carolina, didn't you?
Yeah, it's going to be one of my 5 tough questions. So we'll save that for after we review this week. But let's face it, Carolina's 5-4.
It's amazing. I mean, it's just amazing. They're in the playoff hunt. Technically, I don't know how they finished the season though, and they can only win at home pretty much.
Would you believe? I don't have the number in front of me. Yeah, I do have the number in front of me. -4 in turnover ratio, and they're 5-4. Usually, teams like Carolina can't afford to be minus in the turnover ratio. It's it's a wafer thin line that they're straddling with a roster, depending on how you feel about Bryce Young, you can't really name their wide receivers. Their defense was torched last year, a little better this year, and they're -4 turnovers and they're 5-4. Little bit product of the schedule, but give them some credit.
Well, how are they doing it then?
Well, there's how are they doing it? We can stop and I'm looking at their stat sheet. Their stat sheet says they shouldn't be 5-4, basically. I mean, theoretically, if they played the game 10 times, Carolina would lose at least 8 out of 10 to Green Bay last week, but Green Bay stalled in the red zone.
Yeah, it's amazing. They're not doing anything that stands out statistically. It's just remarkable.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I was looking over, you're looking it over, and there's nothing that jumps out at the screen, does it?
Bizarre. I mean, they're still really not rated high at all.
Yeah. So I will talk about that when we talk about the games.
Oh, so let's see. Going back to last week, I forgot my sheet of paper, so I'm.
Okay, well.
We started off with the Ravens and the Dolphins. That game went pretty much as I kind of expected. I can't think of anything that stands out on that game off the top of my head.
Yeah, nothing to add. Baltimore's dynamite off a bye. They got Lamar Jackson back. I will say this: Lamar Jackson did not want to run in that game. If you watched it, the one time he was forced to run to get the first down, he came up and his body language said, "I don't want to do that again." So maybe with the next 10-day break, he'll be ready to do that. But the fact that he didn't want to run and they still won 28-6. Tells you that Baltimore is going to be better, and it tells you everything you need to know about Miami.
So, I mean, looking at this, I've got a note. Miami was 0 for 3 in the red zone, and were they -3 in turnovers too?
Let me double check that. -6, you are correct.
Yeah, so I mean, Miami had to really shoot themselves in the foot. The game should have been closer.
Should have been closer, but never was Miami going to win that game.
No. The Bears and the Bengals, the battle of defense.
Yeah.
No defense.
Yeah. So this is a game when we talked last week, I said if Hendrickson was going to play, I would take a +3 with Cincinnati. Thank goodness Hendrickson didn't play. And that game was crazy. I mean, that game, if you had Chicago, did you get a bad beat? Did you get lucky, or should they have won in the first place? If you had Cincinnati, they came back, they recovered an onside kick, they threw for 460 yards. Was that a bad beat, or should they have lost in the first place? Basically, that game was nonsense. Arena League football.
Well, the comedy of this is that the Bengals are playing better offensively than when Burrow's in the lineup. If you look at the games Flacco's played, statistically, he's better, and the team plays better than Burrow. So maybe they don't need this Burrow guy.
Well, one thing Flacco's not afraid to do is throw the ball to his superstars. So Chase has 10 catches a game or more since Flacco has taken over. Higgins made some spectacular catches last week. Between him and Drake London of Atlanta, I mean, they had the highlight reel cornered. So, but Cincinnati as an organization is so deficient defensively that no lead is going to be safe, even when they have the lead late in that game.
We talked last week that Ben Johnson, is not going to be happy with Caleb, but he's got to be happy with Caleb being able to do what he did in this game. The more boring Caleb can be, probably the better. So that's a good sign, is when you don't see him on highlight film and they scored. because then he's becoming, he's getting the point of just get the basics done. Take what defenses give to you. Just move the ball. We don't want to see highlights of him scrambling and making a spectacular play. He shouldn't be in that position.
Yeah. So, Chris, how many people do you know that overreact to a game that's played just the last week? Not just the week one or overreactions, but they say, wow, this team is this, that, and whatever. Whatever Chicago did offensively, remember, it was against Cincinnati. So I would say, as a teaching point to people listening to this, make sure you chart Chicago not just on this game, but chart Chicago and chart Caleb against other types of defenses, because Cincinnati is not a true test.
It's funny you bring up that subject, because I was thinking that exact same thing, because I realized that whatever we talked about last week somehow kind of gets turned around on its ass in some ways in a handful of these teams. And I was sitting there going, geez, is it easy to just switch your opinion in a week or hard not to? And Chicago is definitely one of those circumstances I was thinking about.
Yeah, there'll be another one coming up shortly.
Yeah. Falcons and the Colts. No, wait, did they switch me back to week 10?
San Francisco and the Giants are next. And the New York Football Giants.
I didn't really. Yeah, that game went about as I thought. New York would keep it a little bit closer. It seemed like the 49ers were just kind of holding their head, and holding the ball over here, and the Giants were just never going to win the game somehow. I didn't pay careful attention to how that happened, but it just seemed like San Francisco got a lead, and that was going to be it.
So the one flaw in last weekend, I have to call myself out on this one. This was something that I shouldn't do, and the crutch. I said on Twitter when we were talking about the show that there's a good and a bad to in-game betting, and I think I've relied on in-game betting as a crux in this one. I have said to you and everybody last week that I wasn't quite comfortable with Mac Jones at quarterback. And I wanted to see how it would play out and maybe get involved in the in-game betting. But I never got that opportunity because San Francisco went off to a fast start and I didn't get the odds that I wanted to get. Instead, I should have said, hey, wait a second. I should be worried about Mac Jones, but should I really be worried about Mac Jones against the New York Giant defense? I should be worried about him against a different type of defense, not the New York Giant defense. So not that it would have been a big play, but I think I talked myself out and I missed an opportunity to take San Francisco last week. And I didn't and I said, well, I'll do it in game if he looks good. So he's 12 for 12 or something like that at the beginning of the game. I had no opportunity to get back in. So I just want to call myself out on that particular one. San Francisco was the right side, and I was concerned about Mac Jones, but I should have lessened the concern based on the defense he was facing.
Well, I'm just glad the line didn't hit 3 because I had been forced to play the Giants, and I did play in small just in the teaser situation. But, your comment reminds me of, I'll just play it in game. Reminds me to mention how many times you never get a chance to do something you'd like to do in game because of the direction the game goes from the go. I mean,
right.
A lot of games go back and forth and you've got, you're picking your opportunity. But games like the Washington game on Monday night when they get annihilated, it went one way only, what are you going to do? So, and there's more games like that than you realize. So you can't just leave it for in-game.
Yeah, it's always something to learn, which is the beauty of handicapping in sports.
Falcons, Patriots, that probably was exactly what I expected to happen. Falcons to have a good effort and the Patriots to not be able to wipe them away and have difficulty. And They just placed Kyler Murray on the injured reserve, just so you know. So that's a minimum of 4 games. But any surprises on the Patriots Atlanta game?
No, intentionally left it alone. No surprises whatsoever. Really nothing to add from me.
We did the Colts and Steelers. That's frustrating. I was, forced to play the Colts, and it just really bums me out that they weren't able to, what they have 6 turnovers, and Indianapolis Jones has, I don't know how many of them. He's no longer Danny Dimes, I hear. He's Indianapolis Jones or Indiana Jones.
Oh, okay.
But you give 6 turnovers and you still only lose by 1 possession. So I think it's clear that we can forgive the Colts in this situation, and it's another reason to examine Pittsburgh on why can't you put some distance on a team that turns the ball over to you 6 times.
Actually, they had distance. They had 17 points and lost interest, and it got kind of weird at the end of the game.
Yeah.
So I think this is one of the cases where we got high, or people got high on Indy, but not so much that from my point of view is people saw what Pittsburgh did the week before and overreacted to what Pittsburgh did in a no situational game. And I know people are tired of me talking about situations, although a couple of people asked me about, can I explain some of the situations and stuff like that. But Pittsburgh and Mike Tomlin, being a longtime coach, was in a glorious situation last week. If you looked at the on-the-field metrics, they favored Indy. If you looked at the situations, it was incredibly heavily inflated toward Pittsburgh. Now he's 14-2 or 15-2 against the spread when 3 or more situations fall in Pittsburgh's favor. It doesn't happen every week. It happens once, at most twice a year, for Pittsburgh to be in this situation. But for them to be a home dog in this situation, and nothing against Indy. I mean, they had rapidly ascended. That's why they were a road favorite. But it's not the shutdown. It's still not a shutdown defense, although it might get that way with Sauce Gardner in there, now that they've upgraded that area. But he wasn't there last week.
Is Sauce Gardner really that good? I understand he's a Pro Bowl and he's had his moments, but is he really top notch?
So I will probably differ from some people, but my answer is yes. He's a difference maker. He's a real difference maker. He allowed 0 touchdowns at the University of Cincinnati, and he's in your face. He does get penalized because he plays press a lot. At least he was asked to play press a lot in New York. We'll see what kind of defense Indianapolis wants to line up on. But he is, in my opinion, he's not overrated. Indy paid a lot for him. And, make no mistake about that, but he's a difference maker.
Yeah, I think they overpaid on that one.
Yeah.
I saw a highlight this morning of they got rid of Mitchell, and Gardner was covering Mitchell, and Mitchell just schooled him and got the long ball touchdown or something on Gardner. So
maybe he got the long ball, dropped the ball at the 1 yard line, and something like that. Yeah. Mitchell is inconsistent. Mitchell's career will take a nosedive in New York under the present quarterback.
Yeah. Browns, and did they switch me again? Why do they keep doing
They switch you again. You should be on Carolina. Well, we talked about Carolina, Green Bay. And we talked about Minnesota, Detroit. Let's talk about Denver, Houston.
Yeah, that was a disappointing game. I had the over in that game.
Yeah, so this is where I should have texting or whatever. But when Houston was the better team in that game, I don't care what anybody says. They were the better team. When C.J. Stroud went out of the game, that was it. Davis Mills has been in the league a long time. He threw 18 completions for 130 yards or whatever. So I told you the bad about in-game betting. Here's the good about in-game betting. There was enough scoring early on that I got out of the over bet as soon as Davis Mills was in the game. I just got completely out of it, and I got a fair line, even fairer than what I had, because at that point they were settling. I forgot what the score was at the time, but Houston was ahead by at least 6 points at the time. He goes out of the game. We know both defenses are so good against the pass. We know that the teams don't run the ball that much. Davis Mills is not a turnover-prone guy. It was just going to be a different game, and it cost Houston a chance. I think Houston's dead because of that game. I thought Houston was a better team in that day, but in-game betting saved me on the over-under.
Yeah, Houston's in some hot water in there. Denver didn't particularly look that great.
No.
But Knicks is one of, when you look at these quarterbacks since the beginning of October, May and Knicks are 5-0, and Bryce Young is 4-0. So doing something right.
It'll be interesting to see if Denver can win by margin in some games, including this coming Thursday, because the stat sheet is really good, but there's still some limitations to what Denver is doing compared to some of the other ascending teams. So we'll see. Houston, just a rough year for them with their 0-3 start and not getting it together and then losing their quarterback. Don't even know if Stroud will play in his next game. But either way, based on the moves that Indy made and Jacksonville made on the trade deadline and where Houston is because they lost to Denver, I think that's it for Houston.
Yeah, there's not much hope there. The playoff situation is well, you know what? It's not crowded, but it seems like you know who the playoff teams are going to be at this point, don't we? Yeah, we do.
We're very close. I'll have a question on that. Danny asked, was there more to the Steelers situation than a home game off a home loss? That wasn't even part of the 4 situations that favored them.
Chargers, Titans, that pretty much what I expected.
Yeah, if you had the Chargers, you had the right side. This is the second time that Tennessee benefited from fluke plays or special teams or other stuff. Remember, the Arizona game should have been 28-3, 10 minutes left.
Yeah.
And they won the game, but technically that was another double-digit loss. This game was LA Chargers 27, Tennessee 6, if you count offense versus offense. Tennessee is not a good team.
Just talk about Diggs in the comments. Is that the Diggs that's having 4 children from 4 different wives at the same time? Or
He's
4
a busy
different
man,
women?
busy guy.
How is this possible?
Yeah. Rock stars are groupies. They go back to the dressing room after the concert and stuff like that, and security's there and stuff like that. That's for a different show.
Where are we next here? Jaguars and the Raiders. Boy, that was a nail biter. I really needed the Jaguars to win that game at that point.
Last week was fun because I had three, turned out to be 3-star play. I mean, I really liked my top 3 games. So I don't know if I'm lucky or good with Vegas because Jacksonville was all out just to get to overtime. 68-yard field goal. 48-yard field goal with time running out in the 4th quarter. The Raiders miss an extra point. Any one of those 3, and we don't have overtime. And then in overtime, the Raiders had to come back with only 3 minutes and 24 seconds left. They go down there. Obviously, the correct play was to go for 2 with the Raiders' record and everything. And then they throw a pass that has no chance.
Yeah, that was nerve-wracking because I did not want the Raiders to convert that. So the Saints and the Rams, that was a complete whitewash.
Well, we won the live bet of last week.
Yeah, we won the under 14.5. And
I went out on a limb there.
It wasn't looking good in the 2nd quarter when they let them score that touchdown. But
I know that.
The Bills and the Chiefs. Josh Allen is definitely an excellent regular season quarterback. I don't know why it seems like they beat up on Kansas City in the regular season when they faced each other in the playoffs. It's a different story. apparently Buffalo set a lot of corner DBs back there and dared Kansas City to run, and Kansas City wasn't able to run on them. So, Mahomes didn't look kind of discombobulated and didn't look himself. And a little bit of a different type of loss. What do you think?
Yeah, I have a lot to say about this game. If not for Mahomes, this is like 38-3, because when he did connect, when he did have a little bit of extra time, he made throws no one else could make. Once again, displaying his excellence in that way. Again, I'll point out that Buffalo had reinforcements on the defensive line, and you're right, Kansas, they dared them to run, but they couldn't run on a four-man defensive line because Buffalo got its players back. Unfortunately, one of them's now on IR. And if you saw in the first quarter, I would say 10 minutes into the game, I knew Buffalo was going to win because Josh Allen was effortless in what he was doing against the Kansas City secondary. And again, remember, Kansas City was off, was it a Monday night game? So they didn't have enough time to prepare. Everything was in Buffalo's favor. So I teased out a play on words that I needed more money on Buffalo and I needed more money on Jacksonville, because those are the plays I texted you, that I made right away. I had Buffalo plus 1.5, not a good number when it came out, but I had the Jags plus 3.5, which was a good number. But those lines had changed by Sunday and I wanted to up the play. So I said, okay, this is the first teaser of the year. I found a place that had +2 KC. I think there were, Buffalo, +2 Buffalo. I think there were 2.5s, but I couldn't match them at the company that I wanted. So I had +2 Buffalo and I had +2 in the Vegas, and I moved them to +8. And I took a 1 star so I could get a half star extra on both teams. I divided up that way. And so I had a tease, Chris. I had a tease of Buffalo to Vegas so that I can get my extra half star on each team.
Yeah, teasers worked semi-okay in the afternoon games. Do you think that the Breece Hall was just fumbleitis is why people don't want him?
I think running backs don't move the win needle for a lot of organizations, and rightfully so. If you want to have a prize running back, you need a quarterback already. A running back can't carry a team without a top 10 to 12 quarterback. So if you're going to trade for Breece Hall, you have to have your quarterback in place.
Well, DeAndre Smith was back at practice today, so the Bears are happy about that. Seahawks and Commanders, the fact that Seattle won doesn't surprise me. It was we touched on this also. Some reference last week was made. Yeah, Daniels is back, but he's not going to be back. He's going to be injured the whole season. So, and sure enough, the coach, leaves him in too long needlessly, and now he's done.
So this was a 1-star play for me. Forget, I had the 3 stars. This is a 1-star. We talked about it, and we were kind of, in some ways, people were talking me into. I liked Seattle already, but was I going to make the play? And to be honest, there were 3 situations in the game, and they all favored. 1 was against Washington, and 2 were for Seattle. So I'm thinking, I don't know what Daniels brings to the table. That's the X factor. But Seattle's the better team, and Washington's off Monday Night Football, and Washington doesn't respond well off Monday Night Football historically. And again, you've heard me say this is a different set of circumstances for Washington this year than last year. And the bottom line is, if I talk about that, I should back that up as well. And Seattle was so much better from the get-go. I think I'm like you. I didn't expect that kind of margin.
He starts off 16 for 16, 4 touchdowns before he throws an incomplete pass. It was impressive. The number 1 quarterback in the league had even a better game. So
amazing, huh?
And I was surprised. I had Arizona for the game, but I was surprised. Dallas was lucky to come within 10, frankly. I mean, they were just outplayed the whole time.
Are you surprised the line went to 3.5? Because that forced my hand. I said, I should take them at 3. Will I take them at 3? And then they're 3.5. And I said, no, against that defense, I would be kicking myself if I didn't take plus 3.5 in Arizona in that game. Why was the line 3.5?
The timing was actually more of a surprise for me because I can't believe how long it lasted at 2.5. So that's what was really goofy about it. It lasted 2.5 for days longer because all indications were, if you looked at contest people like Dallas, if you looked at the percentages of the books were releasing, it was all Dallas action. Well, why isn't the line moving then?
Yeah, when I looked at it at the end, I said, what's the difference between Brissett and Kyler Murray?
Nothing. He's better.
Against the Dallas defense, learning my lesson from San Francisco and the New York Giants, all he has to do is be accurate because you're going to complete a lot of passes against a Matt Eberflus coach defense. I mean, he just cannot understand how to design a scheme to stop opposing quarterbacks. So Brissett's accurate. Actually, he's probably a little more accurate than Murray, especially in the short to medium area. You knew they were going to feature Harrison because of the squeaky wheel stuff with his dad and stuff like that. Yeah. McBride is unstoppable at tight end. I didn't understand it. I'm going to ask you the 5 questions.
Go ahead.
Let me pull them up on my screen. And everybody, please play along because it was fun last time. Hopefully they're as tough as last week. Better chance to make the playoffs, Jacksonville or Denver?
You've got Jacksonville at 5-3. I do not think that they can catch Indy. I think Jacksonville can win 9 games or will win 9 games. I think Indy will win 11 at least.
We've got 4 votes for Denver.
And I can't see Denver winning fewer than 11 games. So,
okay. So we have large consensus on Denver here.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Broncos can finish 3rd in division. Yeah. And still make the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, that's the point. I mean, they should get a win this week. They play the Jags at home. They should win that game. They should win. They play the Chargers and Green Bay at home. And Kansas City, they should at least get 2. And then they go to Las Vegas again. There's another 2 wins there. That's 11 wins. Minimum.
So maybe it's an easy answer to my next question. Who finishes higher, Denver or the Chargers?
I have Denver finishes higher by a game.
Okay. Anybody else think the Chargers can match up on? Have the Chargers played Denver yet?
They finished last game of the year at Denver.
Yeah. Okay, they have played once already.
I forget who won.
I'm trying to look that up.
Denver
Chargers won 23-20. Interesting. Obviously, Chargers are more beat up, but that's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, I don't think I think Denver's pretty locked in.
Okay. Question 3. Who finishes with the worst record in the NFL?
You know what? I don't know, but I narrowed it down to 4. I mean, even though Cleveland only has 2 wins, I don't think they will.
No.
I don't think the Raiders will either. And I don't think the Giants will either. They all have 2 wins.
So did you narrow it down? Who did you narrow it down to? Tennessee, the Saints, the Jets, and the Dolphins?
Yeah.
So we have a vote for Miami. We have a vote for Cleveland. We have a vote for the Jets. We have another vote for the Jets.
No, I didn't have Miami in there. I had, I guess, yeah. Jets, Tennessee, or New Orleans.
Yeah. So I think it's a tough question.
I'm going to call a flag on the play and say that I don't want to spend my time figuring it out.
Okay. Normally I would say Tennessee, but because Houston's season ended prematurely, I think, and we don't know who's the quarterback, maybe they steal a win somewhere. But Tennessee, in my opinion, is playing the worst ball of everybody. So we'll see. It will be interesting, just as a side note, if Tennessee is the worst team, they'll trade the number 1 pick because they already have Cam Ward. So somebody's moving up to get a quarterback.
Are they going to stick with Cam Ward?
Yep, they will stick with Cam Ward. Okay, where am I? Question number 4.
4.
Which team is higher rated for you, New England or Jacksonville?
I better be New England.
What did the audience say? New England or Jacksonville? Who's higher rated?
Yeah, it's not very close.
Yeah. So I threw in an easy one, apparently. I agree.
You're getting
everybody's got New England ahead of Jacksonville.
You're getting a penalty for holding up the show. 5-yard penalty.
Okay, well, I think this is a tougher question. Rank order these 3 teams: Carolina, Cleveland, and the New York Giants. Carolina, Cleveland, and the New York Giants. Rank order them.
Well, I have them all 3 of them next to each other, so they're interchangeable.
Okay,
but I have them but I have Giants, Carolina, and Cleveland in that order.
Okay, so we see a lot of Panthers, Giants, Browns, Panthers, Giants, Browns, just like you named them, Carolina. So I agree they're all close together, but I find it interesting that I have Carolina last of those 3, despite their 5-4 record.
Well, yeah, that's none of us have Carolina on top.
Yeah, I mean, Carolina is in, I think we'll get to it, but I think they're like tied 25th, tied 26th with my power rating, which is kind of amazing considering they're 5-4. But we talked about it earlier. That's why I wanted to hold it off. Their stat sheet it isn't horrible, but there's nothing special about it.
But I have a team that we just talked about vying for the worst record, rated above all of them. Which team would that be?
Let's see, vying for the worst record. So we have the Jets. Well, the Jets have to you have to downgrade the Jets because of their recent acquisition or recent fire sale. They lost 2 of their best players defensively. Tennessee isn't there. The Saints aren't there. So I don't have another bottom team. Those were the 3.
No, yeah, but the Jets were 5 or 6 notches above those guys.
They were. No, I agree. I had prior to the fire sale, I had the Jets rated a half point ahead of Carolina.
Yeah,
I agree, but now I have to change that. I think people should. I mean, if you're not changing your power ratings, but on the Jets, then you're missing an opportunity.
You think they're going to miss those guys? They got Mitchell.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know he was a defensive player, but sure, stick him in.
You dropped the ball on that one.
Yeah. All right. That's my 5 questions. On with the show.
Okay, we got the Raiders coming in Thursday off of an overtime loss and 70 defensive plays. That's the last time we had a defense play that many plays. I remember they did not fare well the following week.
The New England game?
I don't remember.
Against the Raiders. I mean, the Raiders only had 30 offensive plays, but then they had a bye or then something happened.
What do we have here? Oh, yeah, the Broncos gone into the fourth quarter trailing 4 times, and they've won all 4 of those games. I don't know whether you're aware of that. That's a little unusual. And
Yeah,
you've got the Vinovich referee crew, which does not get along well with Peyton after that Rams New Orleans call back in the day that kept the Saints out of the Super Bowl. You remember that?
oh yeah, well, I remember that because it was not a good call.
No, they took Vinovich off of Peyton games for a couple of years, but he's back on. So small sideline.
Yeah, that would be interesting to me. It's a heated rivalry. It's a short week and all that, and I understand the fact that Denver's not look good in early parts of games. I was still a little surprised that the line was not at least 9.5.
What does the absence of Myers do much to the Raiders?
Myers was a good receiver. I think he'll thrive more on other teams. There's a little downgrade, but not enough to even do a half-point power rating. Thanks for the question. I did not change the power rating on Vegas based on a wide receiver 2 situation.
How much how much different do you think the Raiders looked with Bowers back in the lineup?
It adjusted their game plan, that's for sure. But we're starting to see Denver tick up, I guess. Yeah, I mean, they could go to Bowers. Bowers is tough. Now, this is going to be a tough defense, even for Bowers. I think it's going to be a tougher defense on Geno Smith on the offensive line. I'm not sure the offensive line is going to hold up in this game.
I would be more apt to lay 9 than take 9 in this game.
Yeah. The series cries out that when Denver's favored by more than 3 in the series, they don't win. They don't cover.
Right. You're going to ignore that this week, right?
Well, it's a short week. It's a Thursday. I also have a good situation on Vegas. I have to completely pass the game.
Atlanta and Indianapolis. We get to wake up early, 6:30 a.m. Pacific time. I think
I'm dying here. Wow.
Was that a lung I saw hit the wall? Jesus.
Yeah. Oh boy. The Raiders choked me up. Although I want to go back quickly. If the line goes plus 10, I might revisit.
Yeah, I think we'll see a 10 on that game.
Yeah.
So they're off to Berlin. Do you remember that group from the 80s?
Yeah.
Berlin? No.
Brock Berlin. Yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
Drake London had a phenomenal game. Atlanta came to play somewhat, but the coaching really gets in the way on these Falcons at this point, doesn't it?
Yeah. Really bad coaching, to be honest. I researched the field. It's a grass field. I don't think it's a dome. I originally thought it's a dome, but I don't think it's a dome. They're expecting roughly around 50 degrees, which is probably football weather. I mean, with all these guys and their pads and their 300 pounds and stuff like that. So I think the playing conditions will be okay. The 2 games that have been held for whatever, this is meaningless, but I'll say it anyway. The 2 games held in Germany, not in Berlin, both went under the total. Maybe it's just the foreign services. And I'm going to throw out something else to you has no way, shape, or form a foundation, but just a general feeling that Indianapolis, because they have maybe a more mature veteran team, there's a lot of younger players on Atlanta, including their quarterback, that maybe the travel is going to be easier on the Colts than the Falcons. Is there anything to that or not?
I think that's just, we've discussed how Indianapolis has responded well in flat spots and in situations that would normally, diffuse, momentum, so to speak. and Indianapolis passed most of those tests. So I just think that there's a better maturity with the Colts overall and more focus. So I would think that they would travel better.
Okay. Nothing from me on this game otherwise. I have nothing to report with matchups or situations.
Did you know? I mean, we were discussing all these offensive records that this team was breaking week after week. I mean, it was, offensively ranking with the very best of this century. And they had not had a 100-yard receiver up till last game. Can you believe that?
Well, it's good to mix things around and to move it around. One other
It was
point
the
on
first
this
week.
game.
It was the first week with a 100-yard receiver, and they had 2 of them last week, and they lost. So don't pass the ball.
Yeah.
Taylor
Okay.
only had like 45 yards, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't much, and he could run this time around, certainly. A couple of interesting points on this game. One is Indy has a bye week after this. So Sauce Gardner may or may not play this week. I mean, you're flying all the way to, I mean, how much acclimated is he going to be? He's in concussion protocol anyway. You could get Sauce Gardner up to speed for his next game because it's over 2 weeks away. When that happens, 2 weeks from now, I will upgrade Indianapolis power rating because like I said at the beginning of the show, I think Sauce Gardner makes a difference. So wherever they are after this game, I will upgrade them at least a half a point, probably stick with a half a point to start with, but I will upgrade Indianapolis when they come back off the bye.
Well, they said he's practicing. So where is he practicing? He's not practicing in New York. He must be with the team already.
Have they flown to Berlin already?
Oh, maybe they haven't flown there. Well, yeah, I guess maybe he's in Indianapolis then.
Okay. Russell says they plan to play him if he clears protocol. So I'm not sure that it's appropriate to raise the power rating this week. I want to wait until he has 2 weeks of practice and he's back from the overseas trip.
Russell says they're still in Indy.
Makes sense.
That makes sense. Line looks about right to me.
Yep, I agree.
Cleveland, New Jersey. I have the Jets. I just have AD Mitchell plus picks as the notes for this entire game. If you can make sense out of what's going on between these two teams, more power to you.
Yeah, it's too bad Cleveland's not at home because their home splits are so much better, but I think the bye week will help. The one line that I thought was the most off this week was when the Jets were 2. I didn't have the Jets as being a 2-point favorite. I didn't act on it, but once the news hit, I scrambled to try to find the best line I could get. 2 was gone, but I got the money line on Cleveland. I think I'm going to be comfortable with the money line on Cleveland, minus 105. It's probably not there, and not even close to being there anymore. But I downgraded the Jets 2.5 points for right now. That's a big drop in power rating.
2.5. Why so much? I mean, I understand Sauce Gardner, but it seems like a little much.
You Sauce Gardner, but they also lost their best guy on the defensive line in Quinnen Williams. So you lose the guy that could stuff the run. Judkins is going to run for Cleveland. And you lose the guy who could check down half the field, which makes a quarterback like Dylan Gabriel, who I don't think has a big live arm, and he's going to throw these 10 to 12-yard passes, in my opinion. Gardner's press defense would be so impressive. He would stop that. He would literally stop half the field against a guy like Dylan Gabriel, and he's not there. I could, 2. I toyed with 2, but I definitely have to make it at least 2.
Let's switch. Let's bounce, skip 2 games and talk about a game that's actually moving at the moment.
Okay.
Jacksonville is up to 1.5 in some spots. It's still 1.5 the other way at Boyd, which is FanDuel. I don't know why this line's moving all of a sudden.
It's possibly moving because they don't think Stroud will play.
Yeah, I know. I haven't seen it come across yet.
Yeah. So if
But
Stroud
wasn't that
doesn't
assumed?
play, it's a big difference.
Yeah, but that was already assumed, wasn't it?
I would say 60-40 assumed, but not all the bettors were necessarily in tune with that. I did not change Jacksonville's power rating based on the Shaheed move, but he still is an upgrade for their wide receiver core.
Yeah, I've got to get better Twitter follows because there's no news on Stroud.
Yeah. I will have to revisit the game if I'm going to do anything at all. But I just think the morale in Houston is such that they've got to subconsciously know their playoff hopes ended last week.
Mills was atrocious last week, and that's usually when they should do okay, is when they come in on surprise. What do you expect from Mills this week?
Just an average performance where he completes a lot of short passes and stuff. He's not going to he's not going to necessarily press the field unless Nico Collins gets open for a long gainer. I'm looking at the over-under is roughly 37.5, 38. There was a question.
Yeah, there's 37 and 38 sitting dead.
Yeah, I did not, on this particular game, I did not set an over-under because I did not know who the quarterback is. So I can't help for the over-under, but Houston's got such a good defense. And you talked about Trevor Lawrence's accuracy issues, that it makes sense that this game will be lower scoring. Houston's path to victory is to make this 9-6.
Well, you can get under 38 at MGM. Opened at 41.5. That's a pretty big move for no weather.
Yes. Whenever it must not have stayed there long once they figured out that Stroud may miss the game. If Stroud misses the game, it would be very hard to look anything but under.
Teams are 1-11 against the spread on the road following a road game in Vegas.
That's weird. Is it the slot machine effect?
I don't know. And Russell keeps repeating that Stroud is out, so he's probably out.
Yeah.
Penei Sewell did not practice. That would be devastating for the Lions.
Team total. You might look at Jacksonville's team total to go actually under rather than over.
What do we got for a team total here?
I'm not live betting it. I'm just talking out loud.
18.5.
19.5?
18.5.
That's that's not even a playable number.
No.
Forget it.
Let's backtrack to the Saints at the Panthers. We all knew the Panthers were going to be a 6-point favorite at some point this season.
Yeah.
I show that that's where the line should be. It's lined well. Offensively, the Saints seem to be going backward.
Yeah. Okay, so the statement I'm going to make now is one I probably won't make again. So if you're listening to the show, you can say I was right or I was wrong later on. But I think Carolina, if they win this game, is a good play to go season wins under.
Oh, because it'll be overrated?
Yeah, because they'll win against another lower level team. They'll be 6-4. Look at their last 6 games. Look at their schedule, the last 6 games.
Oh, the last 6 games are against at Atlanta, at San Francisco, against the Rams, at the Saints, Tampa Bay, Seattle, and another one at Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
3.
We'll see what happens, but I'm rooting for Carolina to win this game, and I want to see what happens with the season.
They're going to be lucky to get. They'd be very lucky to get 2 wins. They may not get one more win.
So
they'll probably get one more win.
If we see them 6-4, I think they'll be lined at 9.5.
Yeah, I like that thinking.
Yeah. So it's not always about us talking about week 10. It's about us thinking the big picture.
But it all depends on week 10.
Yeah. I mean, maybe New Orleans pulls
Maybe if Diggs had thought ahead, he wouldn't be, in the situation he's in. It's all about what happens now, the causes later.
Something like that.
Dow, how do you pronounce it? Dow?
I'm not great with pronunciations, so we'll bring Ted in to do the pronunciation.
I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's third in the league in rushing, and he's only started 3 games.
Last year at Dallas, he ran for an enormous yards per carry figure, and then Jerry Jones said, "Oh, we don't need him," and let him go.
Why are they listening to Jerry?
Because he's the GM, he's the owner, he's the coach, he's the play caller.
So, Young gets another win, as I said, 4-0 since October. He only had 102 yards passing. So, how big of a factor is he in these wins overall that you see?
I think what's happening is that Carolina played so poorly defensively last year. They lost a lot of people, 5 or 6 people to free agency the year before. They had a little bit more roster stability in the defense. It kept the same coordinator because he showed he showed some stuff previously. He just had a bad 2024. I think you have to give the defense a little bit of credit. Now, they only have 14 defensive sacks, so it's not like they're rushing the pass, and not like they have a go-to pass rusher, but they're playing within themselves defensively. And the schedule, you talked about the last part of the schedule, but the first part of the schedule wasn't that tough.
1 for 5 in the red zone, too.
Yeah, not a great team. Wouldn't want to back them as a favorite, but I wouldn't want to take New Orleans off the fire sale either.
Well, let's root for a Carolina win so we can bet the under 9.5.
Okay, got it.
Buffalo at Miami. Is there a letdown effect here? Cook is injured. I don't know whether he's practicing or not, but he wasn't playing. He wasn't practicing yesterday.
Yeah, he appeared on the injury report. We'll see. I mean, if I'm a running back and I get to face Miami, I'm playing.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about over 5 yards per carry allowed. Had your stats.
They had a couple of defensive injuries. I don't know what the update on the Buffalo defensive injuries.
Yeah, one guy, unfortunately, is on IR, a defensive lineman who had 2 sacks in the 2 games. He's one of the guys I said, don't look at Buffalo's first 6 games because they got an impactful guy in the offensive line. That's why I like them so much these last 2 games. That's why I bet them so much the last 2 games. And now he's on IR. He's done for the year. I think he tore his Achilles or he did something bad, unfortunately.
Well, Jesus. That's just an UGG game.
Yeah. Little surprise. Where's the line right now?
9.5.
Yeah. I set it in double digits. I set it 2 points higher than that.
Yeah, me too. But that's a soft spot. And, they may rally behind the new GM. Miami, it could change everything.
Yeah, no, I can't bet Buffalo, but I certainly can't bet Miami. I just was surprised at the line. Well, just like last week, I could not get past 10 in the Green Bay Carolina game, but had no interest in playing it. I can't get past. I certainly can't get past 11 in the Buffalo game. I can't get under 11 in the Buffalo game. So 9.5 really surprises me.
Baltimore, Minnesota. That might be the most. No, I guess it's the most interesting afternoon game, isn't it?
Morning game for us.
Yeah, I mean morning game.
Yeah, it is an interesting game, and it's obviously an important game. The fact that both teams won last week means they have a playoff opportunity. And I think Baltimore has only one playoff path, and that's to win the division. They'll play Pittsburgh twice later in the year. I don't think Baltimore will have enough wins to qualify as a wild card.
You don't think so?
Not with what Jacksonville did. Not with Denver. You told me that they were going to have 11 wins. Not with the Chargers and Harbaugh. They just don't have a path unless they beat Pittsburgh for the title in the North. It's really going to come down to that. The
Chargers are going to get squeezed out.
It's possible, but I just like the way they get coached.
Wasn't it a year ago that we were talking about the NFC North and all the teams being 500 or above?
Yeah, what a difference a year makes.
I mean, the Bears are 5-3. Lions 5-3. Minnesota up to 4-4. Last week we said their season was as dead as disco.
Yeah, that division flipped with last week's results.
Well, that's one of the instances where I was referencing from earlier, where we thought Minnesota was dead. If they play like they played last week, they are far from dead.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of situations going on here, but the two that I have favor Minnesota in this game.
The two games that McCarthy has played, I think he had identical stats. Did you notice that?
No, I did not. I'll trust you on that.
That's what I picked up something along that lines. It was like literally identical stats.
What do you expect, based on your notes, your model, and so on? What do you expect from the Baltimore defense in this game?
That's a good question. I have a feeling the game is lined perfectly, just based on the adjustments needed to be made versus whatever the hardcore numbers are, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I did not. I have Minnesota's line circled because we don't have enough McCarthy games. And in a sense, I need to know whether Lamar Jackson is going to run the ball or not run the ball, because he didn't run, taking away part of their offense last week.
I think that those problems linger. I don't think he's going to be in a hurry to run, but if he has to, he will.
Yeah, I have a feeling he's going to have to in this game, unless Baltimore starts playing better defensively. They have the talent to do that, but they haven't put it together. I still think their young defensive coordinator is learning on the job.
Boy, this Yeezy Live guy is just like Diggs. He's got to go back to the kids.
But we appreciate you watching and liking our humor.
What do you think? I see a high variance in this game. I can see Baltimore's defense folding like a paper napkin with a rejuvenated, reinvigorated Minnesota coming off this big Detroit win. I could see them ripping apart that defense potentially with all the weapons that they have. But I could also see, the inverse happening. I could see a blowout either way. Or I could see a tightly fought game that goes down to a last-minute field goal.
Yeah. I think the variance for me is because Lamar Jackson has 10 days. If he had 7 days, I don't think he would be ready to do everything he needs to do as far as running the ball and making Minnesota play honest defense. I need to know whether Lamar Jackson is going to run the ball, and I need to know whether Baltimore is going to play a little bit better defense. I agree there's variance in this game, but most likely I'll be on the home dog.
The Patriots, do they have any receivers this week?
I don't know.
The
Are
line
they?
is flipping. I thought no, that was a different game.
Yeah.
I saw Goodwin and Godwin and Irving are sitting out today again. We don't know what's up with their status. The Patriots are short receivers. Let's see.
Good game. It's actually a good game.
It is a good game. Keyshawn Boot still has his hamstring injury. They've got no depth.
Where do you have New England's power rating in the league?
High.
High? Higher than top 10? In the top 10?
Sure. How can
New
we not
England?
have them in the top 10?
I don't have them in the top 10.
Okay.
Based on the line, I think people are lining up with you more than me in this one.
Yeah, yep.
New England's schedule hasn't been very tough. If New England does pull this one off, it'll be very meaningful to me.
Well, but Tampa, you're not seeing the real Tampa. I mean, I'm surprised Tampa didn't make a move. They could use just a little bit more depth, and I'm not. This is the year to kind of go for it for them, in my opinion.
Now, they typically don't make these kinds of moves, but Tampa is definitely in line for. If we say that Philadelphia is going to walk through because they have 2 games at the end against a Washington team that's depleted, Tampa is still in line for the 2nd overall seed because the NFC West is going to brutalize each other, and the same with the NFC North.
I'm going to feel sorry for multiple teams in the NFC this year that you just hate to see them go out when they go out. There's absolutely zero doubt in my mind we're going to see several teams you wish could be in the playoffs longer than they will end up being.
Yeah, I understand that. I think this New England Tampa is a fascinating game that I will very likely not have a position on, but I'm very curious as to what will happen in the game.
I see. What is this total? Wow. Why is that total so high?
49?
Yeah.
I said it's
You think Tampa's going to run all over and pass all over New England?
New England's weakness is pass defense.
Is it?
Yeah. They Mike Vrabel team from his days at Tennessee to now, they force you to pass the ball. What are they allowing? 3.6 per carry allowed on the ground, 69% through the air.
That's not good.
Be a fun one.
The total seems really high to me.
Yeah, I do not feel like I have nothing. I do not feel, there are certain games, Chris, where you feel you have an edge. You're seeing something somebody else isn't. Yeah. This, for me, is not one of those games. I feel like I'm not seeing this game. And you have to know that. You have to know that and stay away.
Yeah, because, you get these two, in my opinion, they're play-on teams. So when you get 2 play-on teams bouncing into each other, you want to get involved, but you probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
Oh, Giants and the Bears. My gosh. DeAndre Swift is practicing again. They've got no defense. Dart was the leading rusher again on their team. They've given up 33 plus in their last 3 games, all losses. Where do you think we had a little bit of optimism for New York recently? Do we still have any?
It's a tale of two teams that are similar in one respect, at least in 2024. Neither team figured out how to win a game. Chicago was snake bitten all year. That they had a bad coaching situation and so on, and the Giants would find ways to lose. So this year, the Giants are still finding ways to lose, and the Bears are finding ways to win with a stat sheet that isn't perfect. I like the Giants better on the road than at home, less pressure on them. I think Dart can do well against Chicago. I think Chicago and Caleb Williams can do well against the Giants. It's one of those games that, damn, if the Giants wouldn't stop beating themselves, I don't see that much of a difference in the two teams, as crazy as that sounds.
The Caleb having fewer sacks. I don't know whether I said that earlier. That you probably noticed that difference, right?
Yeah, he's only sacked 14 times this year. So this line ticked up. I didn't 3.5 to 4.5.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a service play, a correction. I think it's a slight correction because I made the line 4, not 3.5. So I think the line is kind of in line with where I wanted it to be. Do you read into anything of the line move 3.5 to 4.5 in two ways, Chris? Do you read into the fact, was it set for a reason at 3.5, or was it moved for a reason to 4.5?
Yeah, I think, well, based on look ahead lines, I would imagine the look ahead line was probably 3.5. I think it was more of a matter of people getting their metrics organized and realizing, because the metrics say the Bears should be favored by more than 3.5. So I think it really was just adjusting properly.
Okay. I'm kind of in agreement with that the line needed a little bit of adjusting from 3.5. And I think 4.5 is a fair number. But then when I look at the other stuff that's going on here, I'm not willing to back the Bears at 4 or more.
Yeah, we get another one of these games where you sit there and, yeah, the line is right. It feels unfair. It's not, but one could make the case it could be even higher. So it wouldn't surprise me to see this get bet back down to 4.
Yeah. So the Bears have a plus 13 turnover ratio, which is, Caleb Williams is not turnover prone, at least not interception prone. So part of that, and having a better offensive scheme with Ben Johnson, is understandable, but plus 13 is still out of whack for just playing 8 or 9 games at this point. You're not going to sustain that. Jackson Dart is streaky. He can go through games where he doesn't throw interceptions, and then he can go through games. I saw it at Mississippi where he threw 3 in a row, cost them a chance to get to the 12-team playoff. So you don't know which Dart you'll get, but Chicago does allow over 70% pass completions. Even with they must take a lot of chances or do something right, because to have a plus 13 turnover ratio and a 71% pass defense is kind of contradictory.
Well, maybe pass defensive percentage isn't as important now that everybody's dinking and dunking.
You have to look at it situationally, certainly, but I think Dart will move what it means to me is that Dart is going to move the chains against Chicago.
Yeah, I think that game gets over 47 before the New England Tampa Bay game does, in my opinion.
It's an interesting game, and I'm not handing it to Chicago.
Arizona and Seattle. Arizona off the short week. Seattle looking like the best thing since sliced bread. 8.7 yards per play versus 4.7. They pick up another receiver, right?
Yep. A good one. Ready to go. Shaheed is ready to go.
I don't have much else to say about that. I mean, I think Arizona's a better team with Brissett in there. So it's a shame they're 3-5. I mean, boy, they really could easily, be above 500 if things had gone a little differently.
Yeah, if they shut down teams in the fourth quarter, they would be as high as 6-2. So, because I think you pointed out the stat last week, losing 3 consecutive times, leading by 7 in the fourth quarter.
They actually have a positive point differential. The entire NFC West does.
Yeah. It's interesting line. Seattle is much loved right now, but it's hard. But they still wanted to set it under 7. I would have set it. I would not have set it 6.5. I actually still would have set it at 7 or 7, even a little bit. 7 leaning 7.5 is where I would have set it. Nothing from me though in the game.
I think it's going to be mighty interesting. I think the Seattle has basically got. It's interesting. I don't think Arizona's going to get enough street credit for what they did against the Cowboys. But they will.
It was the Cowboys, remember. It's a whole different defense.
Arizona allows 34% pressure rating. Matches up poorly with Seattle's defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Boy, see, every divisional game in the NFC West is going to matter. Last year, Seattle won 10 games, did not make the playoffs because of the divisional matchups. They lost, I think, twice to the Rams. They just didn't have a good enough divisional record. So they won 10 games last year and didn't make the playoffs. I don't think they want to make the same mistake.
And that's an interesting game. I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk for Seattle. You know what? You can just see Darnold throwing some dumb pick 6 early and Arizona getting out in front somehow.
I think it'll be a fun game, but not to bet.
It was mentioned earlier in the comments the Lions are something like 1-23 in Washington.
Oh, yeah. I think I used to have that stat. Well, if they're going to ever win a second one, this would be it.
I don't, they change stadiums and things are entirely different. We've talked about those type of streaks sometimes, being a huge cloud hanging over a team's head. And I don't think they take ownership in that cloud. I don't think it's an issue.
It takes 2 teams to tangle, and that's the last thing Washington is thinking about at this point. Their dominance over Detroit is number 99 on a list of things that they're thinking about. So you don't get any kind of bump from that stat.
Is this a revenge game this late in the season?
Detroit better make it a revenge game. It would be more of a revenge game angle if Detroit was off a win. That's just my thinking in terms of the perspective that Detroit could say, we're going to put the Minnesota win behind us. We're going to go on. We have to beat this team. Let's destroy them.
What do you do with their power rating? You've lost Daniels, McLaren, and Lattimore.
Yeah, so that's a tough thing because obviously their power rating is completely circled right now. I wrote this, so obviously you asked another great question here. How much is the loss of Daniels and moving full-time to Mariota worth? Based on what I've seen in the market, it's been about 5 points. And if we use that as a baseline, that it's a 5-point move in the market, then the line is correct at about 8.5, maybe 9. And what we have is about 8. So if you think it's a 5-point move with all those injuries, because it's more than, McLaren is a loss too.
Well, you have a problem with, we've talked about the Lions' weaknesses. You've got another mobile quarterback stepping in for Daniels. So I don't think you can. But you've got these other factors with all these other players missing. Typically, I think you'd be getting a hell of a lot of value in this situation, thinking, that Daniels is worth more than he is.
Yeah.
Not paying attention to that fact, because Mariota being a mobile quarterback, makes it less of a difference, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. It's a tough situation for Washington's defense. Washington has a fair amount of sacks, 22 on the year. And the Lions, you mentioned they have some offensive line injuries, and they got blitzed right up the middle, which is the correct way to blitz Goff, as we've said before. And the Lions still put up points, so it's not like their offense can't roll on this one. There are a lot of moving parts in this game. It's not a game I'm really looking at.
Yeah, I'm just looking at these Lions injuries stacking up. Jeez. Yeah. Penny Sewell did not practice. Decker did not practice. Skipper did not practice. Has a new injury. Pat O'Connor, new injury, did not practice. Kirby Joseph did not practice. You get a bunch of limited practices.
What's Washington's record? Because they may only win 3 more games all year.
Yeah, they're 3-6.
Yeah. I mean, given this, again, the schedule pacing, all their injuries and stuff like that, they could be 6-11 by the end of this realm. They'll be a 3rd place team in the division.
I've lost you here somewhere. There you are. Okay.
I'm here.
Tricky game. I don't. It's an odd game. Some way, somehow, the Lions are going to roll over them. Somehow, I would think, though.
Yeah. Once we get closer to game time and they can focus on this, obviously Detroit's not going to look past Washington because of what happened last week.
So Christian McCaffrey has not played a game with fewer than 33% of the plays going through him. And last week, I believe it was 50%. Am I right? 45 or 50%? How long?
With all that said, he's running 3.5 yards per carry. This is his worst year running the ball.
I mean, how long can this guy hold up? And then you've got the Rams coming in here with the revenge situation. It's talk of Stafford MVP. And the line just ballooned up to 4.5.
Yeah, so the NFC West is playing in division this week. Arizona, Seattle, Rams, San Francisco. If the Rams do not want to go 0-2 against San Francisco, because that's tiebreaker stuff again. So really important from that standpoint. Where do you have the Rams defense ranked?
Actually pretty good. Top 5.
Me too. It's really been sneaky good in all aspects.
But they played some really weak. Who the hell they played? They played a lot of BS teams too, though.
Let's check quarterbacks faced.
They played Tennessee.
No quarterback.
Jacksonville, the Saints. Well, they played the Colts and then Houston. They played the Baltimore without Jackson.
Yeah.
They've had some, and then they played the 49ers without anybody.
Yeah, gave up 26 in that game. Yeah, that line was crazy because San Francisco lost half its team before that game and still won.
Yeah, I mean, they are not a top 5 defense, but they are ranked number 5 in my book.
Yeah, and they're ranked, I think, 4th for me.
Do you believe that? In your heart of hearts?
So they're now favored by 4.5. They have the revenge, in-season revenge. It's an incredibly important game for them. I think 4.5 is still too high. And I have the Rams, I think, third or fourth power rated wise, but it's such a big divisional rivalry. Do you get, I mean, it's hard to place an exact power rating on San Francisco.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to San Francisco.
So San Francisco has 11 defensive sacks, which is unheard of low for them. So Stafford's going to have another clean pocket. Where would you have set this over under?
How the hell is it 50?
Yeah, now I want to preface that my spectacular year this year does not include over-unders, where I've 1 win and 5 losses in over-unders this year. So it's been a little crazy. But I have set this line nowhere near 49.5.
No, that doesn't make any sense to me. And now I too claim to know it all, to know something about a total every once in a while, and it's usually wrong.
Yeah. I mean, it's really amazing. I mean, I haven't been all that close on totals, so that's why I only have that few of plays, and they're never more than a 1-star play because I don't have confidence in them.
Yeah.
But I can't believe how far of a difference I set this total compared to what it is.
Yeah, that makes no sense to me. It really doesn't. Puka's going to play. He was just banged up, right?
Yeah, he had a good game last week.
Pittsburgh and the Chargers.
Home game for Pittsburgh.
It will be a home game for Pittsburgh in LA because the Pittsburgh fans travel very well. Yeah. The defense did show up last week, didn't they?
But it was a great situational spot. We have no situation. I mean, with Tomlin, I can rattle off a bunch of situations week after week after week, and I have nothing this week.
This is like Dart. Herbert's the leading rusher again as the quarterback. The offensive line got hurt again. Alt's out for the season, if I'm not mistaken. Correct?
Yep, he's out for the season. Comment says I should play an under. Well, if I had confidence in myself, I would.
They don't have anybody to plug and play this offensive line. They kind of came to a halt when Alt went out the first time, right?
Yeah, I think the coaching is making them overachieve in a lot of places. And also Herbert's talking about leading runners. Herbert's just gobbling up yards with these 15 and 20-yard runs.
Yep.
So who was it? Which game was it? Oh, Mahomes. Did you see Buffalo, the way they kept Mahomes? And they wouldn't let Mahomes run at all. He had like 2 carries or 3 carries. I know a lot of people thought Mahomes is going to do his usual 5.5 over. I had a lot of people who said Mahomes would go over in carries. Buffalo snuffed that out with their play design defensively. I wonder if Pittsburgh is going to pay attention to Herbert's rushing.
Possibly. That goes back to something we discussed earlier in the year. When you have glaring weaknesses or liabilities, then people tend to think that they're always going to remain that way and that teams don't make adjustments to make sure that they're addressing those issues. And
right.
And that happens far more often than people realize. The best rushing defense facing the worst rushing team, and all of a sudden the team rushes for, an inordinate amount of yards, and vice versa. It's comical how that works.
No, it does happen that way. Chargers added offensive tackle Penning, who was a former first-round draft pick. He played some tackle and guard. He certainly underachieved his first round status while in New Orleans. and he did start 6 games this year. But the Chargers gave up a 7th-round pick in, I think, 2035 or something like that. I mean, it's so long from now, I don't even know, 2027, 2028. So there's no risk, and they need another body. Maybe the coaching staff can get something out of them.
I have a note, there's a cluster defensive injury on the Pittsburgh side.
I would have to research that. I don't have that in my notes.
It's just an annoying game.
Yeah. Again, I have no edge in this game.
Pittsburgh's on prime time too often. It's getting annoying. Philadelphia and Green Bay. That's an interesting game. There's going to be a lot of green involved. Why don't they play this game like on St. Patrick's Day or something?
I think they try to get it in Ireland.
They should. Why not? Yeah. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
So AJ Brown has some issues. Aaron Jones, is he going to be? Aaron Jones going to be back? We know Kraft is gone.
He says yes.
He says yes.
So I think he'll split carries.
What do you expect? I expect Green Bay to show up for this game.
So we talked about bye weeks before. My expectation for Philly off a bye is higher than a lot of teams because we've seen this before. They usually self-evaluate and then they do other things. And then they added 2 players, Jair Alexander, who when healthy, maybe it works out. Plus, he doesn't have to do it all on the Philly defense because they have Mitchell and then they have the other guy who's, they have 2 really good guys in the backfield. And they added Jalen Phillips. Like we said, they stole Jalen Phillips from Miami. So Philly has all of a sudden become better defensively. They can reset. Green Bay has double revenge. So you got that going. You got some conflict going on this game. But to be honest, I have elevated Philly's power rating an extra 0.5 point in this game because of their 2 additions.
Yeah, I think the season wins under ain't going to cash.
Yeah, what did I say on with Jared? I said I could use it as a napkin now.
Yeah.
They should be 4-4 it. If you look at what happened in all their improbable wins, including the the whole block field goal thing and this and that, whatever, and they escaped so much, it wouldn't have shocked anybody that they would be 4-4 or 3-5 at this point. But unfortunately, that ship has sailed. I don't see us winning 11.5.
So if the season ended today, Kansas City would be out. Baltimore would be out. Houston would be out. Cincinnati out.
Yeah, good point.
Oh, boy, that's both. It's going to be tough in both leagues. But I guess the NFC is more solidified than the AFC. Come to think of it, I said it the opposite earlier.
Yeah, so the NFC, I think we know that Tampa's in a division with 1 bid and Philly's in a division with 1 bid. So it only comes down to, do 2 or 3 teams make it in Detroit's division, or do 2 or 3 teams make it in the Rams division?
Well, we'll have one answer. Whoever loses the Minnesota-Baltimore game is out, I would think.
Yeah. Well, it depends. It depends on expectations with the Steelers, because I could see 9-8 winning that division if Pittsburgh. I don't know. Aaron Rodgers is so strange to me. Sometimes he's such an asset because he's not turnover prone. Pittsburgh is +9 in turnover ratio, and we know part of that is a function of Aaron Rodgers. So I don't know.
there's a lot of motivation to be had in these games. I mean, there's nobody that has any breathing room really, except maybe Philadelphia.
Yeah, and Tampa, I would say, has breathing room.
Yeah, but they've been to these playoffs before, and they're still chasing seeding. I'll bet you Philadelphia.
Yeah. No, you're right.
No, I don't have anything else. You have anything else?
No, I think we hit a lot of good stuff this week, and we'll just have to see how it plays out. Some very interesting games this week, but I think, for me at least, there's not going to be any 3-star plays, and I had 3 last week. And number 2, there are games that I have completely eliminated that are off the table for me, and I think it's important again not to force a play if you don't think you have an edge.
You're really not going to be banging on the window to bet the Browns-Jets game?
I bet it already because I had the money line.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Jesus, even that game you have money on.
Yeah. Well, because I missed the 2. I was kind of waiting. I wanted to see what would happen with Sauce Gardner and stuff like that. Now he's not even on the team.
Who's your survivor pick?
Oh, I was out of that a while ago. Who would be my survivor pick? Boy, that's a hard one this week. I hate to take road teams. At first glance, I would lean Lions. That's scary, isn't it?
It's a tricky week if you don't have Buffalo and Denver.
Yeah, I mean, I could cop out and say Denver, but you got a divisional game there, and I could cop out and say Buffalo. You got a divisional game there. I think somewhere along the line, one of the top 3 or 4 survivor picks is not going to cash this week.
Carolina's going to get a lot of love in Survivor, I think, this week.
Yeah, maybe that's a sneaky good pick. I'd be scared. I'd be scared of any of them this week.
Yeah, this week looks particularly rough. I'm glad I don't have any picks.
Yeah.
All right, so you and Ted are going to be back tomorrow. I may join mid-show from the road. We'll see what the connection issues are. That's at noon tomorrow, same time. And then we'll be back next week, same bet channel, same bet time. Anything else on your end, Ron?
Enjoy the week. It's going to be another fun one.
Good luck, everybody.